A new blog post makes accusations of Kshama Sawant for collaborating with the police during the Seattle MUSLIMBAN protests. Now, if you'll recall, this is where as many as 10,000 people showed up to protest the illegal detention of 13 refugees. Essentially, they were going to go there, block the proceeding until they were released, until they were allowed to continue because they were being detained illegally. Now, this post contains 4 statements alleging her collaboration with police. Now, here's just one of those statements. I want to make sure everyone knows that Kshama Sawant, he's a city council member, put a lot of people in danger last night. We had all marched into the airport and blocked the exits. We were strong in numbers and most of us were fully prepared to stay the night. The organizers went from group to group telling us the plan was to stay until the people were detained and released. Kshama decided that on her own, with a few people from the Socialist Alternative, she would end the occupation before the prisoners were released. She did not confer with any of the organizers that have far more experience with organizing, protesting, and most of all, risk analysis. She led about 2/3 of the protest out onto the street and to the light rail, leaving the rest of us at much higher risk for attack and arrest. The accusation is that she collaborated with the mayor, Ed Murray, who both campaigned on social justice values. They had arranged for the protesters to leave with the police. In a sense, they are accusing her of selling out to the police and doing quite literally pig work. And later it was learned that the police arrested many of the people and dumped them in the light rail station, which was actually not running at the time. That became the focal point where they forced everyone out and into the area. Now, unidentified officers began trying to push people out of the building. They just en masse pushed them, and they were pushing people towards the elevators. Pardon me, towards the escalators. Well, that's pretty dangerous when you're pushing people down escalators because they can fall, get hurt, or possibly even be killed. And there was more than one person who certainly did express a fear for their life at the time when the police were pushing them towards the escalators. They even yelled at them to stop, but they just kept pushing. Now, another one of the statements condemning Kshama Sawant reads as follows. Politicians like Sawant and organizations like the Socialist Alternative are not only terrible organizers, they co-opt movements and mobilization and funnel it into their organization, and they compromise with reforms that have no measurable effect on working class marginalized people. Socialist Alternative has a history of doing this to Black Lives Matter, Fight for 15, and Housing Justice in Seattle. They collaborated with Mayor Ed Murray and the chief of the SeaTac police to end the protest early. They stole organizers' bullhorns, and while those organizers shouted at Sawant and SALT, which is the short form for the Socialist Alternative, to not end the protests, they were silenced as Sawant made the announcement. Now, this is an inevitable result of seeking reform and not revolution. It should be noted, as I have said before, and other people have said before, that Kshama Sawant is a social democrat. She is not a revolutionary, she is a trot, and does not seek revolution in any way, shape, or form. Now, the Social Alternative profits over collaborating with governments and co-opting movements in 2 ways. First, these co-op movements are less radical and have less potential for carrying out revolution because they only seek democratic reform and do things peacefully. After all, this is the woman who called for radical, militant, non-violent protest.
And the fact that hundreds of thousands of people are here marching together in solidarity shows that they are more than ready for collective action. And what we were talking about last night was that this collective action needs to be channeled into really radical, militant, non-violent mass movements.
What this does is funnel more people into their organization in order to have them pay dues. Now, SALT's membership is not dedicated or trained organizers. They are cowards with bad analysis and more interested in state power than revolution. Direct action leads to wins. And this is one of the statements by the people giving testimony at the time, and I certainly do agree with this. This is something that I warned about a few years ago. I said if she was so radical and such a revolutionary, Why is she running for government instead of trying to overthrow it like she's supposed to? To which I was met with accusations of racism, because that totally makes sense. Now, this is a total symbol of first worldism. This is what happens when revolution isn't going to happen, but reform can. You can get concessions from the capitalist class, and there they are. As we saw with the struggle in Seattle, you certainly can get them. But this is not revolution. And this is the kind of thing that happens when you support doing reform over revolution. You end up with people like Kshama Sawant. It should not be so unthinkable that a trot would lead, a worker struggle in such a reactionary direction. That should actually be quite obvious. It's about time people started rejecting this and start recognizing the fact that you're not going to get revolution through reform. You have to do the revolution itself. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.